Hi everyone, my name is Johan Shin and I'm a math instructor at Rutgers University and a middle school math teacher. In today's video, I'll be sharing scientific studies that tell us about what are effective ways for us to learn and use information in different subjects and tests for the best learning outcomes. The learning methods that will be discussed in this video are so simple and easy enough that you can start applying them today and see the improvement as fast as within 3 days. This video is not only going to be useful for students who are in school, but also for anyone who is seeking to learn and apply new knowledge in their lives. To have the most successful academic outcomes, focusing on a medium in which you perceive information, such as visual, auditory, or using notes or highlighters, found to be not as important as you think. The best way for you to learn is to find a strategy that makes it difficult for your brain to forget information and retain information for the longest time. So the question comes down to this: what are those strategies that help our brain to hold as much information without forgetting? Before we talk about different learning strategies, let's briefly talk about learning. Thanks to neuroplasticity, our brain can change in response to the experience that we have. This means that when we learn, we have the ability to change the structure of our brain for optimal outcomes. So the way you study and learn can dramatically influence your brain to be more susceptible to long-term memory and change the trajectory of your learning outcome. I know many of you guys have been in a situation where you were struggling with specific subjects and felt like giving up. But this is the moment when your brain is going through different changes to make the material more acceptable in its neural pathway. So don't take hardship as a signal to give up, because your brain is finding the best way to process and retain that information. Remember, studying that feels challenging is most effective. Focus is one of the most important components that many students want to improve and have while they study. Did you know that you cannot focus if you're not alert? Being alert means you're able to respond to your surrounding stimuli, such as sound and seeing. If you're not alert, you will simply not be able to pick up stimuli, and this could result in missing key information. Without focusing, you won't be able to obtain information, and in order to focus, you need to be alert. No matter how much effort you put it in to be focused, if your alertness level does not match your focus level, you won't be able to learn at your best. Think of it as pumping gas before you start driving a car. No matter how fast your car can go, if there is no gas or energy, your car won't go anywhere. A great night's sleep has been linked to providing optimal alertness levels. When you're not alert, your ability to perform and learn will not be productive, since your brain cannot keep up with the pace of learning and the capacity to hold new information. Think about a day when you had a bad sleep. You probably didn't want to do anything but go back to sleep. If you feel this way often, you have to work on getting more sleep and change your sleep schedule to bring your alertness level. The good thing about alertness is that it is fixable and can be changed based on the quality of the sleep you get. So once you start having quality sleep and give enough rest for your brain to have a fresh start, you'll be able to notice a significant change in your focus level and memory retention. Another reason to get quality sleep is due to the first night effect. Let's say you start a new unit in your history class. The new information that you learn on that very day will be consolidated during the sleep on that first night. So the better sleep you have on that first night, the more likely for your brain to retain that information for a longer term. Think of sleep as the process of gluing the information and locking that information into your brain. You'll be missing out on a huge opportunity if you didn't have quality sleep on the very first night that you learn new information. Now that we have talked about some of the physical aspects of increasing our focus level, let's talk about some of the mental aspects that help us to enhance our learning and focus. Did you know that by simply saying to yourself that the information you're learning is important, you can ramp up your focus and attention level significantly? You're more likely to pay attention to details when you spend time on things that you value. Even if you think that the materials that you are studying is boring and difficult, tell yourself that it is important and useful so that your brain perceives that information to value and persevere through instead of giving up. I'm not saying you have to like everything that you study. At least think to yourself that what you're studying is important so that you can bring up your focus level within a short period of time. Another way to increase your focus level is to do mindfulness meditation. As short as 5 minutes, meditation improves your focus and recall ability due to intentional training of bringing out and bringing back your focus. When you meditate, you're either focusing on your breathing or specific objects. Deliberately shifting your focus and bringing that focus back improves your memory, since it requires you to maintain and control your focus level. It only takes 5 minutes per day to improve your focus, and it's free. What I like to do during my study break is to take a quick 3 to 5 minutes walk. Whether it is going outside or taking a quick walk in the room, it helps me to regain focus and energy to start fresh with my studies. When you focus on your learning material voluntarily, you're being an active participant of learning, since you're taking actions to pull learning materials toward you not getting pulled by the learning material. The more control you have in learning, the easier and more efficient your learning will become. And of course, the easier you feel about studying, the more confident you will be with learning. Let's look at scientific research that gives us an advantage on when may be the best time to study and how we should review our learning material for long-term memory. It is found that the earlier we study in a day, the less likely we are to be tired. The longer we stay awake, the more molecules called adenosine will develop in our body. Adenosine is a chemical that makes us feel tired, and the more adenosine we accumulate, the more tired we'll feel. So studying at late night may not be the best option since the high accumulation of adenosine will make you feel tired and your brain cannot process information productively when you're tired. For me, studying from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. gives me great focus without feeling tired. Make sure to try studying at different times and see which time works best for you in terms of how you feel during your study session and how you perform. Scheduling the set time in a day that requires your focus and attention for studying is crucial since our brain is trained to be active and inactive at particular times, and the more consistent you can be with your study time, the more attentive and focused you will be during your study. One of the most popular study methods among students is rereading. However, rereading is not effective. Research has found that rereading the same material 3 to 4 times does not produce better results than students who read it once and recall that information in their head. Rather than reread, recheck your understanding by self-testing. Taking the information out of your brain by checking the concept produces much better learning outcomes, so stop wasting your time by rereading the material over and over again. There was another study that talked about the effectiveness of self-testing. There were 3 groups of students for an experiment, and students in the first group reviewed 4 times and took a final test. The second group reviewed 3 times and self-tested once and took a final test. And the last group reviewed once and self-tested 3 times and took a final test. The final test score was highest in groups that had the most number of self-testing done before the final test. This research shows that it is not the number of times you review your notes or textbook that produces a better outcome. It is about the number of self-testing that you do before the exam to fix your mistakes and cover any gaps in your knowledge. When I was in AP biology class, I used to study notes and PowerPoints that my teacher provided. However, I realized that one of my friends who spent a fraction of my study time scored about 10 points higher than what I scored. I asked him, "How do you study?" and he said he takes multiple practice tests. Since then, I have changed my study style from just rereading the notes to applying the concepts by testing out what I know and what I don't know. It is about having this exposure for testing so that you get to improve your weaknesses and lower the number of uncertainties on the day of your test. Make sure to get into the habit of self-assessing yourself. This is the scientific research that has been proven to show better results in learning outcomes. The mind-blowing finding was that students who tend to perform worse by using the ineffective methods tend to show more confidence than students who use better study method and performed much better. One of the reasons why this happens is that when you reread numerous times, that text becomes familiar to you and you think you have a good understanding of it. Recognition is not the same thing as understanding information, and self-testing is the way for us to know whether we have the right understanding. Make sure to think about the concept when you read and give yourself time to organize and test yourself. When you study like this, you'll be able to make learning easier and more enjoyable. Think of learning as not just for tests, but getting to know about a new story each day. Keep working toward bettering your study habits, and you'll see that you'll be able to see noticeable results in the near future. You got this.